I'm Matto, and in this video I'm going to talk about the process of funding game development projects or projects in general using the kind of Web3, crypto, and NFT mechanisms. Let's get started. All right, so welcome back. So I think that this is obviously sometimes contentious topic, and I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around it, or cases where people are like, why don't you just do this? Where they haven't kind of fully thought through the second and third order consequences of it. As a little bit of history, we did our project last year called Hypercastle Explorers, where we built a Unity game engine SDK for the Terraforms by Math Castles generative land art project. And we funded that development work through an NFT sale. So we made a NFT collection of 1,024 tokens and pieces of artwork, and we went to the community, the existing Terraforms by Math Castles community, and said, hey, we want to do this, and if you guys buy these NFTs, we are going to build this software and open source it, right? So there's like a little bit of a public goods, Creative Commons type of layer to it as well. And we did that, and that actually worked. We did that last year, and it was a good experience. I think people were happy with how it went. We made the software as we planned. We did it on time, and it came out well. So, you know, some people are like, well, that's fine, but why didn't you just do a Kickstarter? It's like, okay, Kickstarter is cool. Kickstarter was pretty revolutionary when it first came out, when we didn't have anything like that. But I think the important contrast between a Kickstarter and something NFT or crypto mediated is that when I contribute to a Kickstarter, there is no chance that my contribution is A, gonna act as a store of value, or B, give me any kind of opportunity to get my money back. You know, usually, right? Unless it's like a collectible item that maybe I could sell later or whatever. Usually, you put your money in, your money is gone, and you get your board game or your copy of your video game or whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think that's a totally valid system. It's obviously something that works. Kickstarter.com is a thing. It's ongoing. They're a benefit corp, which is a cool aspect of them. But it's got 1 degree more friction than the NFT model, where I can make a contribution to a project. Let's say last year I bought into our project Hypercastle Explorers. I paid the 0.1 ETH, which at the time was, I think, $200. So I buy in, and then I'm watching the progress of the project, but I think, you know what? I don't agree with this. I don't like what they've done, or they're not doing anything. They haven't done what they promised, or whatever it is, right? Which definitely happens on Kickstarter. And I say, you know what? I want out. And here is where the NFT use case really shines, right? Because you just go to the public marketplace, list your token for sale. If you list it at a reasonable price, generally speaking, within a certain amount of time, somebody will come in and pick it up, right? Assuming there's any interest at all in the project. And so you have this freedom to exit. And even if, let's say, the value of the project went down by half because everybody saw, oh, nobody's doing any work here, this is not gonna work, but still, you still got half of your money back out, in contrast to the Kickstarter scenario where it's gone, right? You could go ask for a refund, but very often those are not forthcoming. So there's a kind of an accountability mechanism there where if we're kind of, as the project creators, we're doing what we promised and we're going along and everybody's happy, then people are like, yeah, I'm into this. I'm gonna hold on to my thing and I'm happy to follow the progress. But if everybody sees that you just are kind of trying to take the money and run, well, then they can all sell their assets and exit. And so it creates this kind of balance. First of all, the assets are acting as a kind of a store of value. So it creates a kind of a balance in the system. I think that as a creator, as a developer, as somebody who wants to fund projects, I see this as being in my interests, right? Because it's reducing the risk for the person that I'm asking to fund. It's not a one-way transaction of, hey, I put my money into your project and I'm never getting it back. It's not a captive audience, right? So that means that I now need to bring people along for the ride and actually do what I promised. Luckily, as the type of person who likes to do that, that's in my interest, right? I think there's an interesting parallel to this in the video game space as well, where very often we see this triangle of game players who invest real time and money into projects, game investors who invest real money into projects, and then game developers who also invest mainly time, but also money into projects. And very often, all three of these can be a little bit at odds. The investors want to extract as much money as possible from the players. The developers and the investors are sometimes in conflict. The players and the developers are sometimes in conflict where they're like, why can't you just add networking to your one-player game? It's really easy. Just push the networking button. In a situation where we have these exit mechanisms or these kind of asset mechanisms in place, I think it's possible to kind of rebalance that triangle a little bit and create more positive sum interactions where players can, let's say, buy items in a game or invest money into a game's development, knowing that they can get their money out if they want to, even if it's gone down by a bit, or maybe it also could go up, right? There's a speculative layer there too. Investors who are purely interested in the number go up side of things can invest and know, okay, I can also liquidate my investment if I need to. And developers, by reducing the friction on both sides of this income generating or investment generating side, can benefit as well. I think that there's a fact here where just changing the nature of the payment rails and the assets used without changing any of the underlying economic principles. Notice I'm not talking about play to earn. I'm not talking about any of these weird Ponzi-nomic kinds of things. I'm talking about pure, you're paying for skins in a video game. You're an investor investing in the development of a video game. You're a developer just making a normal video game, whether single player or multiplayer. I actually think that these mechanisms can have real benefits, even if it is only to reduce friction and risk for all the people involved. I think that in many cases, when people talk about integrating crypto assets into game development, they are really trying to kind of totally transform what's going on. But I don't think that's necessary. I think we can use this asset class as a way to fund projects, to do normal types of transactions that we do with players, like buying items or skins or currency in a game. And just by changing the nature of the payment rails, I think we can actually improve the situation for many people involved. And I'll actually link in the description, there's a really great article by an acquaintance of mine named Arad, who kind of breaks this down in a whole lot more detail, which I think is worth reading. And it's kind of a response to the writing by the excellent writing and research by Lars Doucet, who's been very critical of the crypto, and rightly so. But I think Arad makes a good kind of counter argument, based on some of the things that I'm talking about here in this video. It's not the best thing since sliced bread. It's not, going to solve all of the problems of the world, but I do think that there are good and legitimate use cases for it, and I think that developers, big and small, can potentially benefit. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a like for the YouTube algorithm if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And drop me a comment if you have an opinion about this. I know this may be a controversial, but I always love to hear from you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.